Human Rights Watch expressed its profound disappointment to Pakatan Harapan's reform effort after a year the latter coming into power. In a joint press conference with Amnesty International Malaysia on Wednesday, Phil Robertson, the Human Rights Watch Deputy Asia Director, said the government has done little to fulfil its promises and had even backpedaled.
And if I was to use one word to sum up Human Rights Watch's feelings about this anniversary and about human rights reform in Malaysia, it would have to be disappointment. But I mean really profound disappointment, very deep disappointment. I think like many Malaysian voters, we read the Pakatan Harapan election manifesto when it was issued by the Alliance, and we were excited by the reform pledges, especially on human rights, that were listed there. And we heard commitments to abolish the death penalty entirely, to dump the Sedition Act, to agree to ratify all the major international human rights treaties. Hope was really in the air, and at that time I would say that the Pakatan Harapan government was doing pretty well. They had voted to repeal Najib's disastrous anti-fake news law, and we still expect that that repeal will be finalized when the government finally controls the Senate later this year. We saw a limited reform of the Universities and University Colleges Act to let students join political parties, and we saw that as a down payment on the Pakatan Harapan pledge to revoke the UUCA altogether. Of course, that hasn't happened. And you know, we noted that the Pakatan Harapan government had also undone a lot of the immediate damage caused by Prime Minister Najib and his government. You know, the dozens of sedition cases and other prosecutions against cartoonists and artists and opposition political party members, NGO activists. Cases were dropped, appeals were withdrawn, and that's not a small thing. Quite simply, at that time, the government took its foot off the neck of civil society. But the problem is that very little has been done to bring permanent reforms that will ensure that such repression cannot be brought by different governments in the future.
Amnesty International Malaysia Executive Director Shamini Darshini Kalimutu said, while there were hits, there seemed to be more misses when it came to implementing human rights reform in the country.
When first assuming power a year ago, the government had notable intentions to introduce reforms. However, after a year in power, we see a lack of a clear direction. We need to see a plan that is clearly articulated and in the spirit of promoting and protecting human rights in the country.
Pakatan Harapan, which marks its first anniversary of being in power on Thursday, has backpedaled in signing the International Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination and withdrew from the Rome Statute, which forms the basis of the International Criminal Court.